Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to take some pretty complex, sometimes challenging source material, cut through the noise, and really give you the shortcut to the core ideas.
Yeah, the stuff that really makes you think. And today we're looking at something that could fundamentally shift how you see, everything. Spirituality, reality, maybe even your purpose.
Exactly. We're digging into a set of sources that talk about five uh, foundational illusions,
Hmm.
things that supposedly shape the whole human experience.
And the angle here is quite different from, traditional paths. It's less about fear and following rules and much more about empowerment,
Yep.
self-realization.
Right. So these five illusions, the sources claim, are basically the main thing stopping us from, remembering our true power, our connection to something bigger.
That's the core argument. It's asking for a total reset, philosophically speaking. Usually spirituality is presented as rules from outside, from some authority figure.
Mm-hmm.
This material just flips that entirely. It's all about looking inward, aligning yourself, taking radical responsibility, and consciously creating your own reality.
So our mission today, for you listening, isn't just to list these five things.
Hmm.
We want to get into the why and the how. What's the thinking behind these big claims about unity and co-creation and, what we're actually doing here?
We're really trying to pull out the intellectual framework so you can grapple with it yourself.
Yeah, understand the shift it represents.
And that central idea, it keeps coming back. Life isn't some harsh test run by a judge in the sky. It's framed more like a divine experiment.
An experiment, how so?
Well, the idea is your purpose isn't just to obey orders. It's to use your free will, moment by moment, to actually participate in creating and expanding reality itself, consciously.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to take in already. Let's start breaking it down. Where do we begin with unpacking this massive shift?
Well, you have to start with the self, right? How we define who we are.
Makes sense. So section one, okay, so the sources say the biggest illusion, the one that really underpins everything else, is this belief that we're all separate individuals.
Exactly. That we're just these isolated units, cut off from each other, cut off from the divine, often feeling like we're competing against everyone else.
Which, feels pretty real most days, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. But the counter argument here isn't just some feel-good poetry. It's presented as the actual mechanics of reality.
Okay.
The sources are firm. We are all, every single one of us, part of one consciousness. Different expressions, sure, like customized avatars maybe, but all running on the same core energy.
Right. The classic analogy people use is the ocean and the wave, isn't it?
Precisely. A wave looks totally separate, has its own little life cycle, crashes uniquely, but you can't argue it's not fundamentally the ocean.
It is the ocean, just in a temporary form.
And these sources really detail this unified field. They say every thought, every feeling, every single action, it actually registers across the entire whole.
So if you really buy into that, when you look at someone else, you're literally looking at another piece of yourself, just experiencing things through a different window.
That's the profound implication, yeah. You're seeing another aspect of the one temporarily focused through a separate lens.
Okay, but hang on. If we are all one, why does separation feel so incredibly real? Why all the conflict, the loneliness, the horrible things people do to each other? Surely oneness would mean harmony, right?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the source material tackles this directly. It argues the illusion of separation isn't a mistake. It's not a bug in the system.
It's a feature.
It's presented as a chosen or design element. Think about it. If you knew you were absolutely everything, who would you interact with? How could you experience anything like relationship or contrast or growth?
Right, you need otherness for interaction to even happen.
Exactly. Life as we know it, with all its complexity and richness, relies on that sense of difference. Without separation, there's no relating.
So it's like we voluntarily put on these masks of being separate so that the underlying consciousness can experience itself in countless different ways, like an actor forgetting they wrote the play.
That's a great way to put it. The source literally calls it God experiencing itself through countless forms. It's the mechanism that lets qualities like love or forgiveness or courage be actively expressed and felt rather than just being, abstract concepts.
You can't really show forgiveness if there's no perceived other who did something wrong, can you?
Precisely. You can't experience deep compassion unless you perceive suffering in someone seemingly separate from you. The illusion enables the experience.
Okay, wow, that completely changes the game for ethics, doesn't it? If I think I'm separate, I need external rules.
Yeah.
Commandments, don't do this or else. Usually enforced by fear of punishment from, God.
But if you start from oneness,
Then the whole basis for morality shifts inside,
yeah,
right?
it becomes an internal awareness, not an external obligation. The need for those rigid, fear-based rules kind of dissolves. Why? Because the ethical guide becomes this built-in understanding of interconnectedness.
So the sources argue that if I hurt someone else,
The impact isn't just on them. It registers on your own soul. Not like a cosmic slap on the wrist, not punishment, but as a direct contradiction of your true unified nature.
so instead of avoiding bad behavior because I'm scared of hell, the motivation becomes I choose not to cause pain because that pain literally ripples back through the unified field I'm part of. It hurts me, too, in a way.
It's essentially a self-wounding act, yeah. That's the core realization the material points to. Every action is collective. Kindness genuinely lifts the whole, cruelty drags it down.
That unity becomes the compass.
Yeah.
And maybe a much more reliable one than a rule book.
Yeah.
Because it's based on an immediate kind of existential feedback.
Built right into the fabric of reality, exactly.
This also helps make sense of why it's so hard to feel this oneness when there's so much conflict in the world. The conflict isn't proof that separation is the ultimate reality.
No, it's proof of how deeply we've bought into the illusion of separation. Politically, culturally, economically, personally, we've really leaned into it.
So the deeper the conflict, the stronger the illusion's grip.
Yeah. And the real spiritual work, according to this view, isn't just, sitting on a cushion meditating. It's about trying to recognize your unity with the person you find it hardest to love or forgive.
That's the real test.
That's where the rubber meets the road. The moment you can genuinely embody that knowledge that we're fundamentally one despite the different roles we're playing, that's when you move beyond needing external roles. You just start being ethical, intuitively.
Okay, so accepting that fundamental unity naturally leads us to this second big illusion, the one that really shakes up traditional religion, the idea of a punitive God.
Yeah, this is a big one for many people. The image of God as the ultimate judge, keeping score, ready to hand out eternal rewards or, much more scarily, eternal punishment for sin.
But if we follow the logic from the first point about oneness, how does that fit?
Well, it doesn't, really. If we are all expressions of one consciousness, and if God or Source is the totality of all that is, how could the whole condemn a part of itself? It's like your hand declaring your foot eternally damned. It doesn't make metaphysical sense in that framework.
Infinite love can't really contain the mechanism for eternal judgmental punishment, can it?
That's exactly what the sources state very clearly. God does not punish, does not judge, does not condemn. Full stop.
Okay, but that's tough to reconcile if you've grown up with a certain image of God. And so if God isn't judging, what is the nature of this source, according to this material?
The nature is described simply as infinite love. And crucially, this is a huge point. They stress God has no ego.
No ego. What does that mean in this context?
Well, think about human ego. It needs validation. It wants praise. It demands respect or deference. If the divine source has zero ego,
Then it doesn't need us to worship it. It doesn't need rituals or praise or for us to be, submissive.
exactly. It has no need to be placated, no need for groveling. The whole structure of worship, the elaborate rituals, the specific prayers demanded in some traditions, this material suggests that's largely a human projection.
It's our ego wanting structure and validation, maybe, and projecting that onto the concept of God.
That's the implication. If the source is just pure, infinite, expanding love, its only motivation, if you can call it that, is to give, to express, to experience.
So what's the best way to give back, then, if not worship?
The sources suggest the greatest offering isn't subservience, but actually living fully, joyously, expressing your unique spark. That expands the total experience of the whole. It's more like active partnership than bowing down.
Okay, partnership, not subservience, but let's tackle the big one.
Oh.
Hell. If God doesn't punish, what happens to the idea of hell? Where do consequences go?
Right. This is probably one of the most powerful reinterpretations in the source material. Hell is completely reframed. It's not divine retribution. It's not a fiery pit ruled by demons, decreed by an angry God.
So what is it?
It's defined simply as separation, specifically the complete self-imposed separation from the awareness of your true self, your connection to the divine.
Wow. So hell isn't a place you go after you die.
No.
It's a state of being you can fall into right now. A state of deep denial about who you really are.
Exactly. It's a psychological and spiritual prison you build yourself. If you choose to live trapped in the illusion of separation, consumed by fear, resentment, bitterness, contraction, You are, in effect, creating your own hell right here, right now.
Because you're cut off from the awareness of your own divine nature, your connection to love.
You're denying your own truth. Living without that awareness is the experience the sources label hell.
Which means sin also gets redefined, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
can't be just breaking divine rules that anger a judge.
Right. Sin is seen more as actions that contradict your highest self. Actions stemming from fear, which cause you to separate yourself further from the awareness of love and unity.
So it's not about offending God.
It's about wounding yourself, reinforcing the illusion of separation, contracting your soul's potential, essentially.
Okay, the practical takeaway here seems huge. It forces a massive shift in why we do things, right? The motivation changes completely.
Absolutely. You move away from a motivation based on fear, the old model of I need to be good to avoid damnation,
And you move
a
toward.
motivation based on love. The new model is more like I choose actions aligned with love because that's the most authentic, expansive, and joyful expression of who I truly am.
So why be good? Not because you have to, or you'll be punished.
But because it feels right, because it's who you are at your core. You shift from obligation and duty to this organic, inherent expression. That choice to align with love, not out of fear, but because it resonates as true and whole, that's what these sources call genuine spiritual practice.
Okay, this is flowing really logically. Unity leads to a non-judging God, which then leads straight into this third illusion, which honestly might be the hardest one for a lot of people to really accept.
Yeah, this one can feel like a heavy lift. It's the illusion of passivity,
Meaning,
meaning the common belief that life just sort of happens to us, that we're basically passive recipients of whatever circumstances come our way. We're taught humility, maybe told to wait for God's plan, or just resign ourselves to fate.
like we're just leaves blowing in the wind.
Exactly, and the sources just shatter that idea. They state very forcefully that we are not passive recipients. We are active co-creators of reality.
So creators, okay, that sounds empowering, but also, well, a little daunting. Is that just a nice philosophical idea, or did they explain how that works?
Oh, they get specific. It's presented as the operating system of the universe, basically. Creation happens, they say, through the combination, the aggregation of our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
Thought, word, and action. The tools in our kit.
Pretty much. Your focused intention, that's thought, amplified by what you declare or speak, that's word, and then solidified by what you actually do, that's action. Those three things together are constantly shaping your lived experience.
So every moment, every choice, even maybe unconscious ones, they're all acts of creation.
Conscious or unconscious, yeah. That's the key. You're always creating. The question is whether you're doing it deliberately or by default.
It brings us back to that analogy you mentioned earlier, like painting on a canvas.
Exactly. If your life picture feels messy or unsatisfying, you can't just blame the canvas or the paint colors you were given.
You have to look at the painter, at your own process, the thoughts, words, choices that led to the current scene.
Right, which leads directly to this call for radical accountability, absolute personal responsibility.
And that means letting go of the victim narrative.
Completely. In this framework, there's really no room for blaming your parents or society or bad luck or fate for where you are right now, because at some level, consciously or unconsciously, you are acknowledged as having chosen to participate in creating this reality.
Okay, hold on. That feels incredibly harsh, especially for someone dealing with real trauma or systemic oppression or historical injustice. Does the source material nuance that? Is it saying it's someone's fault they were harmed?
No, that's a critical distinction. The sources are careful, or seem careful, to differentiate between being at fault for something happening, which implies you deserved it, or are morally bad for experiencing it and being responsible for your response.
Okay. Responsibility for the response.
Yes. You are not blamed for trauma inflicted by others, especially others deeply caught in the illusion of separation themselves, but you are, according to this view, 100% responsible for what you do with that experience next.
So the choice point is always now.
Always now. Will you let that past experience curdle into resentment and create more pain, more contraction? Or can you somehow use it, maybe over a long time, as a catalyst to demonstrate your highest self? Things like forgiveness or resilience or finding meaning. That choice dictates the next brushstroke on the canvas.
That actually reclaims a lot of power, doesn't it? Even in terrible circumstances. If the situation is a result of collective creation, maybe mostly unconscious, my only real point of influence is my own conscious input right now.
That's it. Every choice you make either limits the path you experience, keeps it small and fear-based, or it expands it, opens up new possibilities aligned with love.
So if I choose fear, defensiveness, holding on to grudges, I'm actively creating a smaller, tighter reality for myself.
You're contracting, yeah. And if you choose things like gratitude, even for small things, or forgiveness, or creative solutions,
Mhm.
you expand your reality. And this ties into how the sources view mistakes, too.
Oh, mistakes aren't failures.
Not catastrophic ones, no. They're seen more as creative power in disguise.
So,
An error or a mistake is just data. It's an application of thought, word, or action that didn't produce the result you wanted. Like trying a paint color that looks wrong. The power isn't lost, it lies in your ability to see it didn't work, learn, and then revise. Repaint with more awareness.
because you always have the next moment.
Exactly. You have the ultimate reset button because the present moment is always a blank canvas. The past only dictates the present if you keep choosing to repaint it exactly the same way, dragging those old energies forward.
Okay, but let's get practical about co-creation. What about collective reality? If I'm trying to create, say, abundance in my life, but I'm surrounded by a society or even a world that seems obsessed with lack and fear, how does my little thought stand a chance?
That's a really important question. The sources explain this through ideas like vibration and the aggregation of intention. Your individual vibration is paramount for your experience.
My personal frequency.
Yeah. If you consistently hold a high expansive vibration, meaning your thoughts, words, actions are generally aligned with love, gratitude, possibility, you naturally start to attract circumstances, people, opportunities that resonate at that same level.
So it's not about magically overriding everyone else's reality?
No, it's about creating your personal reality within the larger collective field. Think of it like tuning a radio. There are countless stations broadcasting simultaneously frequencies of fear, lack, anger, but also joy, abundance, peace. You don't change all the other stations, you just consciously choose the frequency you want to tune into.
You shift your experience by shifting your internal frequency.
Precisely. So the focus has to be internal first, aligning your own energy. Rather than getting overwhelmed trying to fix the external world, which is just a reflection of the collective internal state anyway.
And by doing that, by holding a higher vibration myself,
You become a powerful conscious point of influence. You automatically start pulling your corner of reality towards expansion just by consistently choosing to create from love and abundance within yourself.
Okay, moving on to the fourth illusion. This one seems to challenge our whole idea of purpose, especially in like intellectual or even spiritual circles. We often think success is about learning things, right?
Yeah, accumulating knowledge, memorizing sacred texts, mastering scientific theories, getting degrees, passing exams. Basically knowing the answers, knowing the truth.
But these sources say that's an illusion too, the illusion of knowing.
Exactly. The core assertion here is pretty radical. The soul's primary purpose, why we're even here in physical form, isn't about accumulating intellectual knowledge. It's about experiential embodiment.
Experiential embodiment, meaning
Okay, yeah.
feeling it, living it.
Yes. It's not about knowing what courage is, reading definitions of it. It's about being courageous when fear is gripping you. It's not about understanding forgiveness intellectually. It's about offering forgiveness when you've been deeply hurt.
This is where that chocolate analogy from the source material comes in, right?
Yeah.
It illustrates this difference so well.
It really does. It's such a simple but powerful way to get the point across.
Can you walk us through it?
Sure. The analogy goes something like this. Imagine you decide to become the world's leading expert on chocolate. You could spend your entire life studying it.
Okay.
You read about cacao farming, fermentation, the history of chocolate from the Mayans onwards, the different chemical compounds like theobromine, how it affects brain chemistry, dopamine release. You could learn everything there is to know about chocolate.
You'd be a walking encyclopedia of chocolate knowledge.
Mhm.
Write books, give lectures, ace any test.
You would absolutely know chocolate intellectually. But the source asks, have you truly experienced chocolate?
Not until you taste it.
Exactly. Not until you take a piece, put it on your tongue, feel it melt, experience that complex blend of bitter and sweet, the texture, the aroma, the physical sensation. Until you taste it, the knowledge is purely abstract.
It's not embodied.
It's not embodied. And the soul, according to these sources, chose to incarnate, to take on a physical body specifically for this tasting process, to turn abstract concepts into lived, felt realities.
So, the divine, or source, doesn't need us to write essays about love. It needs us to demonstrate love.
That's the essence of it. The source is love. It doesn't need a definition. What expands the divine experience is you actually showing unconditional love when, say, your teenager messes up badly or a friend betrays your trust.
It's the tangible act of expressing that divine quality, especially when it's hard, when there's resistance.
Mm.
That's the real goal.
That's presented as the gold standard of spiritual success in this lifetime. The embodiment is the point.
Hmm. But doesn't that sound kind of exhausting? If life is just constantly throwing challenges at us so we can embody these high ideals, doesn't that make suffering seem trivial?
Mm.
Like life is just some grim cosmic obstacle course.
That's a very understandable reaction, but the source material actually frames it quite differently. It suggests we see challenges and struggles not as punishments or as signs we're failing, as priceless opportunities, as scenarios specifically, almost custom design, to trigger the need for you to discover and then demonstrate those higher qualities like compassion, patience, resilience, forgiveness, that would otherwise just remain theoretical potentials within you.
So the struggle isn't the point, it's the catalyst.
It's the catalyst. The sources use a metaphor here that might resonate with a lot of people today. Life is a kind of video game.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, think about playing a compelling video game. The goal isn't to stay on level 1, the tutorial level, where everything is super easy and predictable,
No,
right?
that would be boring. The challenge is part of the fun.
Exactly. You don't feel punished when you reach a difficult level or face a tough boss battle. In fact, the difficulty is often directly related to the skills or qualities you need to develop and express to overcome it.
Ah, I see. So if you never face betrayal in the game of life,
How can you truly define and experience the incredible power of forgiveness within yourself? If you never encounter scary financial uncertainty, how do you get to embody genuine faith or discover deep resourcefulness you never knew you had?
the struggle provides the context, the stage, for the divine quality to be expressed. The solution is the expression.
Precisely. So the ultimate goal from this perspective isn't to figure out how to escape life. It's not about achieving some state of nirvana where you check out of the game entirely.
The goal is active participation.
Yes, it's about using this physical existence, this world of contrasts and textures and challenges, as the perfect playground, the ideal workshop to express divinity in all its varied forms.
So if you spend your life trying to avoid pain, avoid difficulty, avoid confrontation,
You're actually avoiding the very mechanism that's designed to help you realize and manifest your highest potential, your deepest truth. Wisdom, in this view, isn't just knowing a bunch of facts.
what is it then?
Wisdom is the consistent application of your highest truth, love, courage, compassion, whatever is called for, right in the midst of profound, real-world, experiential challenges.
So trying to retreat or bypass the hard stuff actually negates the purpose of being here in the first place.
According to these sources, yes.
Yeah.
The soul came here to feel, to interact, to get its hands dirty, metaphorically speaking, to be tangible proof of the divine in action.
Okay, we've covered unity, a non-punitive God, being co-creators, and the need for experience over just knowing. That brings us to the fifth and final illusion, which feels like it kind of distills everything down.
It really does. It acts as the ultimate filter, the fundamental choice point behind everything else. If you boil down every human motivation, every thought, every action, what are the absolute base ingredients?
And the sources say there are only two.
Just two. The entire incredibly complex spectrum of human experience, all our emotions, choices, motivations, they all stem from or are variations of just two root energies, love and fear.
Love and fear. That's it. It seems almost too simple.
Simple, but profound. It's presented as the fundamental bifurcation of reality. Everything else, anger, joy, jealousy, peace, greed, generosity, is just somewhere on the spectrum between or a mixture of these two poles.
Can you give some specific examples of how actions line up on this spectrum based on the source material?
Sure. Think about the signature of the energy. Actions that are love-aligned, things like gratitude, openness, forgiveness, creativity, compassion, they always feel expansive.
Expansive how?
They connect us. They tend to heal. They reveal truth rather than hide it. They look outward with generosity. If you act from genuine gratitude, for instance, you're literally expanding your awareness of the good that exists, the connections you have.
Okay. And on the other side, the fear-aligned actions.
Fear, no matter how it shows up, maybe as jealousy or defensiveness, anxiety, greed, control, destruction, it always feels contractile.
Contractile, like shrinking.
Exactly. Fear shrinks your sense of self. It divides you from others, us versus them. It makes you want to hide truth, build walls, hoard resources. It ultimately harms either yourself or others or both. Acting from jealousy, for example, contracts your reality down to focusing only on what you perceive you lack.
And this connects straight back to the very first illusion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Separation.
Perfectly. Fear is the energy whispering that you are separate, isolated, that resources are scarce, that you need to protect yourself, fight for your share, hoard what you have.
Well, love is the energy that affirms the unity, the connection, the sense of infinite possibility and shared being.
Yes, these two root energies are like the engine driving everything. Fear constantly reinforces all the other illusions. It makes you believe in a punitive God because you feel unworthy. It makes you feel passive because you're afraid to create. It makes you hoard knowledge because you fear not knowing enough.
And love does the opposite.
Love dismantles the illusions. It trusts in unity, so it doesn't need a punishing God. It embraces co-creation. It craves experience. It relies on internal alignment, not external authority.
Okay, that framework makes a lot of sense philosophically. But how do we actually use this day to day? If this is the core choice, what does real spiritual practice look like according to these sources? How do we stop just reacting out of fear all the time?
Well, true spiritual practice, as defined here, isn't about specific rituals necessarily. It's about constant vigilance, inner vigilance. Vigilance for what? It involves actively noticing the energetic source. Is this love or is this fear? Behind every significant action, word, or even recurring thought pattern. And then the crucial part, consciously choosing to return to love again and again, especially when that fear reaction feels automatic, deeply ingrained.
That sounds like radical self-auditing, constantly asking yourself, okay, the feeling driving this decision right now, does it feel tight and anxious or open and trusting? Is this thought I'm dwelling on expanding my world or shrinking it?
That's exactly it. And the sources give us a really clear behavioral marker to help identify which energy is in charge. It's a critical distinction. Love responds thoughtfully, but fear reacts automatically.
Love responds, fear reacts. Okay, let's break that down. A reaction is immediate, right? Often emotional, maybe primal, like it bypasses conscious thought.
Yes, it's the knee-jerk. Fight, flight, freeze. It's often based on past programming, old wounds, automatic defenses kicking in before you've even had a chance to think.
Whereas a response needs a pause.
It requires that crucial pause, that tiny space between stimulus and action. That's where intentionality lives. The response is the conscious choice to step out of the automatic, fear-based impulse and deliberately engage the energy of love or understanding or patience. That moment of pause is the spiritual practice in action.
So let's say someone criticizes you, attacks your character. The fear-based reaction might be immediate lashback, get defensive, shut down, feel wounded.
Textbook fear reaction, contract, defend, attack, or withdraw.
So what would a love-based response look like in that situation?
It would start with the pause, recognizing the sting, maybe the impulse to react, but then consciously choosing something different. Maybe trying to understand the fear or pain driving the other person's attack. Because remember, unity, their fear is part of the collective field too. Maybe choosing clear boundaries without aggression. Maybe choosing compassion. Maybe simply choosing detachment without letting it diminish your own sense of self.
The key is interrupting the automatic pilot of fear.
Yes. That initial rush, the defensiveness, the anger, the urge to hit back, that's the red flag saying, fear just grabbed the steering wheel. Your practice is to notice that, take a breath, and consciously take the wheel back, choosing to navigate from love instead.
On this choice, even if you mess up, even if you react out of fear 100 times a day, it's always available in the next moment.
Always. It's fundamental to being a co-creator. You consciously re-choose, you align again with the energy of love. That expands the potential of that next moment, reconnects you to the unified field. Choosing fear contracts the potential, reinforces the separation.
And the sources emphasize,
Yeah.
no judgment if you fail.
Zero judgment. Just the constant opportunity, the constant invitation to try again, right now, and now again. #tag conclusion overall synthesis.
Wow. Okay, we have really covered a lot of ground today. We've gone through these 5 core illusions: separation, a punitive God, passivity, the limits of just knowing, and that ultimate choice between love and fear.
Yeah, and when you put them all together, the shift they're proposing is, well, it's monumental, isn't it? It's fundamentally moving spirituality away from something based on external rules and authority, which almost always relies on fear and obedience,
Right, moving away from that.
and towards a system that is entirely rooted in internal empowerment, radical personal accountability, and this idea of self-realization through conscious choice.
The biggest takeaway for me listening to all this is that emphasis on internal alignment and conscious creation. It's not about finding the right external authority to follow. It's about realizing you are the locus of creative power.
And that your internal state, that constant choice you're making between love and fear, is actually what steers the ship of your personal reality. And if we tie all these threads back to that core idea we started with, life as a divine experiment, then every act of love you manage to express, it genuinely ripples out. It matters because of that underlying unity. And every single challenge you face, it stops being a burden or a punishment.
And becomes.
A precious, maybe even sacred opportunity, a chance to define yourself, to embody your soul's highest truth, be it courage or compassion or forgiveness in a tangible, real-world way.
It really does transform how you might look at your life, from maybe feeling like a struggle for survival into something potentially exhilarating, a sacred opportunity for growth and expression.
If you can grasp it, if you can start to live it, it changes everything.
Yeah.
This knowledge isn't just for thinking about, it's for applying.
Exactly. We hope unpacking this has served as a genuine shortcut for you, not just to, knowing these ideas intellectually.
But maybe starting to feel into how you might be this reality, how you might live from this place.
Absolutely. And as you go back into your day, maybe holding this framework of being a conscious co-creator lightly in your mind, we want to leave you with one final thought to chew on, something based on that experiential imperative.
Yeah, a question to maybe sit with. If your life truly is a blank canvas, and if it's also a divine experiment where challenges are just opportunities in disguise, ask yourself this. What single quality, maybe it's courage, maybe it's forgiveness, maybe patience, maybe just simple kindness or compassion, what quality are you being given the clearest, most obvious, maybe most pressing opportunity to truly experience and demonstrate in your life right now?
Don't just analyze the answer intellectually. See if you can use that answer to inform your very next response, your next choice. Go out and embody that truth.
A powerful place to start.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a fascinating conversation. We look forward to our next one.